Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and Apple released iOS 26.1 Beta 4 a few days ago, and iOS 26.0.1 has been out for about a month at this point. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 26.1 Beta 4 is out. What's new video. We'll talk about the latest Apple news, there's also some new features to talk about, and we'll talk about the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video there's over 13,000 votes and 187 comments. I've gone through all the comments to determine what the experience is like for everyone, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now, Apple is now shipping American-made servers made in Houston to Apple data centers. Tim Cook posted this on X. And you'll see Tim Cook said Apple's American-made servers are now shipping from our new Houston facility to Apple data centers. These servers will help power private cloud compute and Apple Intelligence as part of our $600 billion U.S. commitment. So you can see the photo here. I would love to see what the servers look like, as Apple hasn't really pushed out servers since Xserve, but either way, they're making new servers in the United States now. Apple may have to disable app tracking transparency options in iOS in future updates, as Apple has said they may be forced to disable a key anti-ad tracking feature in the EU due to regulation. That setting is here under your privacy and security settings under tracking, and it basically allows apps to talk to one another as far as ad tracking. I turned this off, but you may not have the option in some countries in the near future. Hopefully this doesn't get passed, but let me know what you think of it overall, as I like the overall feature to sort of keep everything private on my device. Apple may also have to open up the App Store in the UK. So again, to do with different regulations and more, they may have to open it up. Maybe they'll have the third-party app stores there. I would love to just see that roll out around the world though. Now, General Motors is removing Apple CarPlay from all future vehicles, including gas-powered cars too. However, this does not affect current vehicles or previous ones that have Apple's CarPlay or Android Auto. The CEO of GM recently talked about this to The Verge, and while CarPlay is great for some things, there's cars I've used that I don't think need it, such as Tesla and Rivian, as they have Apple Music built in, and I typically find their maps to be a little bit better if you're utilizing an EV. However, GM has not proven that their systems are at that level. So this seems like a crazy move, and it may eventually backfire and hurt their sales, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe they're right, but let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Apple this week released a new ad on YouTube called Great Ideas Start on Mac. You can see it on their Apple channel here, and it says Great Ideas Start on Mac, and it talks about just, of course, ideas or creativity. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. Now this is broken on iOS. Apple's keyboard has had an issue, and it seems Apple is inputting the wrong letters even when it highlights the correct letter. This does not appear to be an autocorrect issue either, and it still happens when you turn that off. A video recently posted on YouTube actually highlights the issue and has come to the attention of many, as it has over 390,000 views. So it seems like as you're typing and inputting letters, Apple is inputting different letters that are nearby. This doesn't, again, seem to be part of autocorrect, and many of us have been noticing some odd typing issues when you're using iOS 26 and iOS 18 as well. So now that it's become a larger issue, many people are aware of it. Hopefully Apple fixes it, takes a look at it, and basically if you slow your keyboard down going into Notes, and as you type, it will highlight that key, but sometimes as you're typing something fast, it can mistype it even though you press the correct letter. So hi, this is Aaron from Zollotech. And this time around, it did it correctly, auto-corrected, but sometimes you'll just be inputting maybe the word next, and it puts in something completely wrong. So hopefully we see this fixed or addressed by Apple, and of course make sure you report this in feedback if you haven't already. Another state has been added to Digital ID and Wallet. If we go into Wallet, and if you go to add a driver's license or ID and scroll down, you'll see there's now an option for West Virginia. So if you're in West Virginia and you want to add your driver's license to your phone, you now have the option to do so. Now this is completely up to the state to work with Apple to get this implemented. So if they haven't added it yet, many states have not, that's up to the state to work with Apple to do that. So we're waiting for many other states to be added or local governments. You'll see just things such as Puerto Rico, West Virginia, My Number Card from Japan, but again, it's limited by who works with Apple directly. Apple this week caved to people who want more customization of liquid glass in Beta 4. If you haven't seen it already, you can go into your display and brightness in Beta 4 and go to the liquid glass menu. They implemented it with just an option for tinted or clear. Many people wanted a slider, but they didn't do it that way. But either way, I think this is the first time Apple has actually caved to people's requests or demands, saying we want to change it because we can't see properly, and this may be a failure of their design. Many people have loved Apple for design for many years. While I wasn't a fan of the flat design from iOS 7, many people loved it nonetheless, and it was that design for many years. Now they've changed it, and they're allowing you to customize it. So this is something different from Apple, where they used to be overly confident and they would say this is the best design ever, but this time around they've changed it. So it makes me think Apple has changed when it comes to design, and even the iPhone 17 Pro and other phones are proving that as well. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. Now, when it comes to new features, there's a few things to talk about. So for example, if we go into, maybe we'll go into messages here. Within messages, if you tap in a box or in different areas, it would highlight before with an HDR Glow. Apple has really toned this down in Beta 4, and again, this is something I wish they would have kept. It was something I sort of liked. As you would press, it would just sort of give you this nice glow, and it's not covering anything, it's just glowing over what you're touching. So this is something I would love an option for if Apple's going to add options, and something I miss. But either way, they've taken it away or toned it down in Beta 4. Now, if we go into battery, within battery, Apple updated an icon. So if you're using optimized charging, so under charging here, if you're utilizing optimized charging and it stops at 80%, it will let you know in a notification, and that notification has a new icon in it. Someone posted this on Reddit. I haven't seen it myself, but let me know if you're noticing this as well. Apple also updated Apple Intelligence in Siri. I mentioned before how they left justified the information that's here at the top, explaining what it is, but also they've removed the status of beta. It no longer says that it's in beta, and it looks like it's downloading and then it stopped again, but it was in beta before, now it's not. Last week I showed that when you put your phone in low power mode, the actual analog clock goes from a smooth movement to a click. So you'll see here it's sort of a smooth sweeping movement on all the clocks. However, if you change this to low power mode now, not only does the icon for the clock change, but all of the different icons change when it comes to the widgets. So you'll see everything is ticking now in sync instead of having this sweeping motion. I would love to see this as a normal option, as I sort of like this from an analog clock perspective. But again, if we turn it off low power mode, it'll switch back to a sweeping motion on all of the different widgets. So it's a nice little touch that they've added. And as far as in the code of Beta 4, Aaron P613 on X posted that some iMessage features may be disabled in certain regions according to the code. These features include nicknames, group chat names, and group chat photos. So why they would have this, we don't really know, but it's probably to comply with some rule somewhere. So we'll probably learn more about that with the next beta or RC release. When it comes to app releases this week, well, there is one I wanted to mention. If we go into the App Store here, we'll search for sports, and you'll see the Apple Sports app was updated to version 3.4, where it says now it's easier for NFL and college football fans to follow games in real time, with a new drive chart in live activities. Also, additional updates to help you keep up with your favorite sports. So that's available now if you utilize this app. Also, WhatsApp was updated, and you'll see it here with version 25.30.73 that I need to update here, where it adds support for live photos and chats. And you can now translate messages in chats. So that's an additional update that they've rolled out, and it says these features will roll out over the coming weeks. So let me know if you're seeing the feature update already, and we'll get that updated here. Now, with the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max, it seems to be a big hit this year. However, iPhone Air may be a failure based on recent reports of Apple cutting production. They're apparently scaling back shipments, and this is according to Ming-Chi Kuo. It seems iPhone Air is not up to sales expectations. However, I've been using one, and I know others who have one and love it. So many people see it similar to the iPhone 13 mini or the iPhone 12 mini, where many people love it, but then Apple discontinued it and switched to the Plus models. So this is something that I know a lot of people do like. They like the thin phone, but let me know what you think about this as well. Also, iPhone 17 Pro seems to be getting discolored, specifically the orange model. Now, according to what I've found online, it seems like it may be due to issues with bleach or hydrogen peroxide being used in cleaners. So Apple basically says avoid getting moisture in any of the openings and don't submerge your iPhone in any cleaning agents. So that may be causing this. It could be something such as hand lotion that people are putting on their hands and handling their phone. We don't really know 100%, but if you've been using a cleaner with maybe bleach or peroxide in it, let me know know in the comments below, as it seems like it will discolor it. So far, mine hasn't been discolored. Others have also suggested leaving it in the sun will discolor it. So let me know if you've found this to be discolored. Again, I haven't seen it here, but haven't really cleaned it with anything other than maybe a solvent such as iClear that I've used for years. So this seems to work fine. However, I don't know if they still make this. When it comes to releases, well, it's been a bit of a surprise this past week. Many of us expected Apple to release iOS 26.0.2, as MacRumors has shown it in their analytics, and Apple stopped signing iOS 26. Usually a couple weeks after that, we'll see a release, and we also, again, know of it in analytics, so we thought it would be this week. So we could see it maybe next week. However, we're getting close to a public release of iOS 26.1. iOS 26.1 Beta 5 or iOS 26.1 RC could come out as soon as Monday. So this coming week will really let us know if maybe there's a Beta 5, we'll see a public release of iOS 26.0.2. If not, it's possible Apple scrapped it altogether. However, we really haven't seen that before. So based on what we've had already, it's been a long time in between public releases. But we could see that public release as soon as, well, 2 weeks from now on November 3rd or so. So we'll have to wait and see what Apple does there. Now, as far as experiences this week, I thought we'd first talk about the AirPods Pro 3. I've been using them full-time since they released and generally find them to be pretty good. Connectivity since the latest public update has been pretty good. Place them in your ears and they work right away. You can see how quickly they popped up here. However, I do have one issue where they seem to drain the battery of the case awfully fast. I find that I have to recharge this far more than I did with the AirPods Pro 2. Also, I'm hearing from some people that they don't like the overall bass and sound signature or the treble in these AirPods, but I personally like it quite a bit. However, I would like to see Apple introduce an EQ to adjust it for each person individually. So instead of them doing it, it would be great to customize it a little bit since Apple seems to be doing that lately. Also, I heard from one person that used these while they sleep that they found that they woke up with a loud ringing or maybe almost deafness in one ear, or temporary at least, and they didn't have this issue with AirPods Pro 2. So hopefully these aren't causing some odd issue where they maybe go very loud in volume. This could be just a one-off case, but definitely concerning if it's happening to more than one person, and they've even called Apple and they weren't aware of the issue. So hopefully they get this resolved, as it seems that could be a major issue for some if you utilize these for sleep. Now, when it comes to the experience of iOS 26.0.1, I've been using it full-time on my iPhone Air. I used this over the past week or so after doing the review of the iPhone 17 Pro Max after a month or so. I used this one, and generally I've found a few things. It has poor RAM management, so going into YouTube, sometimes it reloads just going back in right after I've gone out. Also, I've found that different apps reload a lot more than I would expect them to. Also, many people say that it has an overheating and battery drain issue. If it's overheating, it's typically working the processor a lot, which coincides with battery drain, so that makes sense. And then there's occasional lag and stutter. I've seen that on the iPhone Air as well, where it sort of gets stuttery. However, if you turn off adaptive battery mode, it seems to help a lot, but then of course it uses more power. Others have said there's delayed Face ID, typically on older devices, and some are having no sound for notifications after installing the update. That's probably the most major issue with this update, and you'll see here if we go into notifications, you can customize this, change it around, and sometimes alarms aren't going off and people are missing appointments or not waking up on time. So that's definitely an issue. There's also a forum post from Apple about it as well. Apple CarPlay connectivity seems to be an issue for many people. However, it's not for me, thankfully, but some people see it disconnect, and it seems to be limited to specific cars, such as Honda and a few others. So let me know if you're having that issue, and maybe we can narrow it down to people experiencing that. Now, when it comes to iOS 26.1 Beta 4, well, CarPlay again is an issue for some. Now, again, it seems to be the same vehicles, so maybe there's some incompatibility there, but again, make sure you report that in the feedback app if you haven't already. That will help Apple determine what's going on and then note the car that's having the issue as well. But many people, and especially those with iPhone 16 Pro and 17 Pro models, or regular 17 models, say iOS 26.1 Beta 4 is much better with stability, performance, and battery life. So many people are happy with it so far, but some people are having issues with updating apps. So if you go into the App Store and you're trying to update, sometimes they won't update. You'll see WhatsApp just did, but that was an odd flash of the screen there. But either way, a reboot seems to fix that. So if you are having that issue, reboot your phone. Again, Face ID is an issue for some on Beta 4, but most people are actually saying Beta 4 is very stable, fixes the majority of bugs, continues to change liquid glass, change some of the highlights around the apps, and is generally a good update overall. So most people are saying it's pretty great. When it comes to performance, iOS 26.1 Beta 4 is also quite good, even on older devices, according to many of you. So just scrolling, going into ProMotion, there is still that lag for me on this phone, but it's not on all my phones running the beta. So it's not on the iPad. It's not necessarily on this one either. This is on Beta 3 here with the 16 Pro Max. If we go in, it's right away. It's just on this phone for some reason, so that's a bit odd. But scrolling, ProMotion, everything else seems to be working as you would expect. Games are fast, loading applications is fast, and it seems like it has better RAM management as well. When it comes to the overall heat and thermals, well, it does seem to be improved. This phone is barely warm at all. In fact, I ran about 4 benchmarks back to back, and it seemed to perform well. But let's go ahead and take a look. You'll see there's one. We'll talk about that in a moment, but we'll run it here on this device as well as the iPhone Air. Now that benchmarks are running on both, we'll go ahead and leave these for a moment. When it gets about halfway done, we'll take a look at the overall heat and thermals. We're about halfway done. Let's go ahead and flip these over and take a look at the thermals on the back. Now on iOS 26.1 Beta 4 on the 17 Pro Max, you can see we're at about 33 degrees at the hottest point. And if we take a look at the iPhone Air on 26.0.1, this device in general gets a lot hotter, around 38 degrees Celsius. So in general, it's hotter. It doesn't have the vapor chamber and dissipates heat a little bit differently up toward the top of the camera plateau. Benchmarks completed, and you can see we have pretty great numbers. This is not the highest I have achieved, but 3,876 for single core, 9,785 for multi-core, and that's on the 17 Pro Max with 26.1 Beta 4. On the iPhone Air, 3,703 for single core, 9,414 for multi-core on 26.0.1. If we take a look at the history here, you can see the best that we achieved here was 9918 for multi-core on the 17 Pro Max. If we take a look at the 17 or the iPhone Air rather, 9,386. So pretty good overall, well within the margin of error and performing as we would expect, even better on 26.1 Beta 4. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.1 Beta 4, well, if you're on Beta 3, absolutely. That's part of being a beta tester. You want to test out the latest and provide feedback to Apple. So make sure you do that in the feedback app. You can look at the recent notes and see if your issue's listed there, and if it's not, provide feedback. If you're on iOS 26.0.1, I would definitely hold off until either 26.0.2 or the public release of 26.1. At this point, I don't recommend installing betas for people trying to solve issues, as it is a beta and there will be some issues here and there. When it comes to battery life, let's first take a look at iOS 26.0.1. iOS 18.7.1 in general is just great. 18.7, no real issues with that. But 26.0.1, I've actually been improving my battery on the iPhone Air by customizing settings. So if we go and take a look at battery health, I'm at 25 cycles with 100% capacity. So I do have to charge it a lot, but if we take a look at battery usage, today 3 hours and 20 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours and 10 minutes of screen idle time, and I've used 73% of the battery. That's from 24 hours though. I really wish they'd allow it to show you since last charge, but either way, it's been improving over a few days since I've been customizing the overall settings and things like that. Now 26.0.1, 65% said battery life was poor compared to iOS 26 or iOS 18. So many people are having issues with that, but iOS 26.1 Beta 4 seems to resolve that for many people. So if we take a look at someone else's battery life, and thanks to Abhishek for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 16e running iOS 26.1 Beta 4, set to 80% charge limit with 100% battery health. You'll see he used 70% of the battery, and he had 7 hours and 11 minutes of screen on time, 1 hour and 25 minutes of screen off time. Generally pretty good overall, especially since it's a 16e. As far as battery on this device, well, if we take a look in settings, go to battery, scroll down to battery health, you'll see I have 10 cycles with 100% capacity. And if we go down to view all battery usage, just today I've used 16% with 1 hour and 53 minutes of screen active time. Much of that was actually running benchmarks, so that's quite good, but we're down to 33% charge. It was not charged all the way though, so it's doing pretty well overall for many people that report it, but let's see what you had to say according to the YouTube community poll and your comments. Simon Drew 8641 said, iPhone 11 runs perfectly on 18.7.1. iPhone 17 runs 26.0.1 with lag and stuttering in some areas. Battery life is good with AI turned off and any other setting that can be disabled. I'm still happy with my new phone after upgrading from the 11 though. Hogwild90 said, iOS 26.0.1 is not very good. Battery life on my 2018 iPad Pro, M1 MacBook Pro, and iPhone 14 Pro took a big hit. Mac has less glitches and hangups, overall okay. iPhone is noticeably glitchy and slower. iPad is a mess, freezes, crashes, hangs up, stutters, etc. Chris Palmer 4983 said, I've been using iOS 26.0.1 on my iPhone 17 Pro. Battery life has been great. I easily get all-day battery life with moderate use. Overall, performance has been smooth and snappy, no major glitches that come to mind. I look forward to the public release of iOS 26.1. FanBanis3639 said, I'm on 26.1 Beta 4, performance seems better and battery runtime is similar to previous betas. Derek Elwell said, Beta 4 has been really good in my opinion. I'm finally getting really good battery life. Everything seems stable. I just hope they add in something to make the liquid glass more transparent as they catered to less transparent. iPhone 17 Pro. Jonathan Oquendo Matos 2078 says, since updating to iOS 26.1 Beta 4 from iOS 26.0.1, I have problems updating the apps. When I press update, they remain like in a loop and nothing happens. If we take a look at storage, we'll go into Settings, General, and then iPhone Storage. Scroll to the bottom, and you'll see iOS is taking up 19.9 gigabytes on iOS 26.0.1 compared to 20.61 gigabytes on iOS 26.1 Beta 4. So Apple Intelligence is taking up just a little bit more, but we did see it update during the video, and you'll see iOS is 13.89 compared to 13.65. So just slightly bigger overall. When it comes to system data, again, I wouldn't really pay much attention to this as this is cache data and goes up and down as needed, but you can see more information about it here. When it comes to iOS 18.7.1, it's still the stable baseline. iOS 18.7.1 is still easily the best if you want stability and battery life with good performance as well. iOS 26.0.1 seems to be the dumpster fire currently. Initially, it was better than iOS 26, but many have been calling iOS 26.0.1 unstable garbage due to severe battery drain, a wide variety of bugs, connectivity issues, and heating issues. Also the poor RAM management I mentioned earlier. iOS 26.1 Beta 4, though, is the promising improvement. iOS 26.1 Beta 4 is a significant step in the right direction. While it's not perfect, it's generally seen as stable and a good update so far. It generally has smooth performance, as I mentioned before, improved battery life, and that new liquid glass option, which is a big update for many who don't care for liquid glass. Sadly, though, there's no way to downgrade still, so I would love to see Apple give us that option since they're adding options. I think that would be great in order to have the option to downgrade to iOS 18 if you really wanted to. And so that's everything with iOS 26.1 Beta 4 and iOS 26.0.1. Hopefully we'll get an even better update this time around with iOS 26.1 Beta 5 or RC, and hopefully we also get iOS 26.0.2. But let me know your experience in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.